Welcome to the CUNY Recovery Corps Training and Orientation. By watching this training video, you're beginning your very special experience with our 2021 inaugural Recovery Corps. You will be eligible to earn up to $2,250 as the result of generous support from the New York City Center for Youth Employment, the New York City Department of Youth and Community Development, and the Summer Youth Program. You'll be spending 6 weeks this summer working with local businesses, cultural institutions, community organizations, city agencies, and CUNY campuses in the recovery of our city from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. We wish that we could all get together to generate that vibrant spirit CUNY students are known for, but like everything else this past year, we're improvising. For the next 2 hours, you'll be watching a conversation between Melissa Fernandez, Director of Career Development and Internships, and Shaddai Arima, Assistant Professor at Bronx Community College. You will learn more about the program and what you can expect during your summer internship. At the end of the video, you'll be prompted to complete a quiz to show that you have reviewed all of the information in this training. Thank you.
Everyone, my name is Melissa Fernandez. I am the Director of Career Development and Internships with the Office of Academic Affairs. I will be spending the next couple of hours with you all to go over some very important things for the CUNY Recovery Corps.
Hi, everybody. I am a member of CUNY's many corps, proudly, and I may have seen some of you before. I'm not seeing you now, but you're seeing me. Hello, if I haven't met you before, hi. My true joy is anything where I'm involved with assisting people who are doing something. So that has manifested as civic engagement programs at CUNY. I'm all for it. This is an exciting opportunity that you guys have decided to be a part of, and we're going to do our best to support you.
You will be working this summer toward the recovery of New York City. 5,000 students from almost every college and the university will be joining forces to help small businesses, help nonprofits, city governments and agencies, and in general, add to the revitalization of the city's recovery. Every one of you come from a campus in one of the 5 boroughs, and as many of us know, the city has been through a very challenging last 18 months. And so the idea of this program is that you all will be helping to bring it back to life. A lot of businesses are really going to benefit from the support that you all will be providing and making sure that revitalization is successful and continues to happen through the summer. So congratulations to you for filling out that application. So if you're here now, it's because you've already completed a bunch of steps. This is the opportunity that we have to share with you, all 5,000 of you. What are some really important things that you'll be doing this summer, and a few of the really technical next steps that you have to take. You will go on to learning more about where you're going to be working. You will be matched with the placement, and you'll be working with your campus manager to do that. We'll get into more details about that later. And then summer starts. Your 6-week internship will begin the first week of July, right after the 4th of July. You'll be starting on July 6th or July 12th. And you'll work for 6 weeks and make a big difference. And so we have lots of information to share with you over the next hour or so. And once we get to the end, at the end of the summer, we're going to continue to support you. And we'll help you with your resume. So this is a full experience that you're going to get. We're going to be covering a lot of stuff. So I really hope that you are ready to pay attention, take notes, and learn a few things that you're going to need to know along the way. We're going to be talking in general about your CUNY Recovery Corps experience. We'll be talking about the mission of the program. Why are we doing this? Why is this so important? You'll learn about the internship timeline and some other requirements that you have to complete along the way, like sexual harassment training and getting more information about your matching, where you're going to be working this summer. We also have some resources and support for you along the way. And some real tools that you'll be able to take with you that will help you be successful, not only in this internship, but in general. So one of the things that we've collaborated on is supporting students and making sure that students are successful in whatever internship service experience that they might be stepping into. And so we really hope that you are ready to engage in the material that we're going to be sharing with you, because our greatest hope and our belief is that you will be successful in this internship. And we want to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that you are as successful as you can be.
What is the most recognizable part of our skyline? I would argue it's Empire State Building. Yes? What would you say, Melissa? Does that jive?
Yeah, I would say that. That's what people recognize and see.
No.
Say the Empire State Building and the Chrysler Building are the most recognizable buildings historically.
It's funny that you mentioned the Chrysler Building. You know, the Chrysler Building was the main reason why they built the Empire State Building. You're nodding like you knew that.
I didn't know that.
Oh, well, there you have it. There you have it. Okay, Al Smith, who some of you may have recognized his name. He was a mayor of New York City. Okay, when the property went up for sale, he wanted to buy it. He didn't have enough money. He had run for president, and his old campaign manager, John Raskob, the guy who had a lot of money, and he asked him to go in with him to buying this property so they can build a building. And this was John Raskob's real thing. He wanted to make something that was bigger than the Chrysler Building to show off, how great he is. I don't know, ego-driven sort of a project. Now,
Wow.
You know the Chrysler Building very well. Now, why do you know the Chrysler Building so well, Melissa?
Because it's on East 42nd Street, which is right near CUNY Central.
That's right. That's right. And is there a lot of action over there?
I mean, it's Grand Central Station, so lots of people,
Lots of big buildings. You work in a big building there. Now, that's very important because the Empire State Building is not in a neighborhood like that. It is in Manhattan, but it's in the garment district. There's not a lot of big buildings around there. And it was seen as a really stupid investment to build something so large for office space that no one there would want. But they went ahead with it anyway. And you know what happened? The Great Depression hit. The Great Depression hit. Come on, man. The stock market crashed. Right after they made the purchase and put all of this time into it and all those plans, stock market crashed. Oh my God, we got to get out of this. They didn't. They kept building it. So as you can see here, in 1930, right at the initial impact, they went ahead and built this thing where everybody said that they were crazy to do it. They should leave it alone. When they finally opened it, to much fanfare, they couldn't get people to rent out the spaces. They couldn't get full capacity, man. It didn't go too well. Where it really made money was in people visiting it because it was so odd. It has become a very unifying force for New York City. Born in a time of great upheaval, we've done great things. It may not have been the most direct route. Mistakes were made, but we keep going forward. And that is in no way different than what we're experiencing now. So it was discovered in 2019, but it wasn't until 2020 when we really got hit. And when we got hit, physically, it was devastating. And unfortunately, I do know some people who did pass. I'm sure some of you did as well. Melissa, I assume that's true for you too, right?
Yes.
I think we've all had to endure the loss in the very direct sense of losing our loved ones, and then the added turn of the dagger of not being able to go to the funeral to honor their lives. And that environment that we've been in till today has created a lot of other things that we did not expect. Perhaps the most mundane for me was me using more social media for many things. Now I have here this, like the confluence of Amazon and Zoom. You may remember, Melissa, when CUNY first decided they were going to stop allowing us to teach classes on campus. We had to do things remotely. I called you and I said,
how am I going to do this? What is Zoom?
No, I didn't say what is Zoom. I didn't say what is Zoom. I said, how am I going to do this? You're giving me more credit than I deserve. Okay, because I was asking you about, I asked you about setting up a Skype and you were like, Skype? See, you can't even think of it now as an example. That is how much of a Luddite I was. I was like, so can you help me hook up with like a Skype thing? And you mentioned Zoom. And I was like, I don't know if I want to use something called Zoom. That sounds kind of unprofessional. And here we are now, right? We're recording this on Zoom. Everything is on Zoom. Amazon on one end has been our lifeline for our commerce, right? Buying things, including fresh groceries like fruits and vegetables. People are using Amazon and all these other sort of delivery services. I think Fresh Direct is one of the major ones. Buying so many things online has hastened the collapse of regular stores, like going to grocery store to buy your pineapple. Now, a lot of these stores, your favorite restaurants, they're closed and are not coming back. Your corner store, gone. My son, who was taking Muay Thai at this dojo thing, that place is gone. In fact, right now, thanks to some census data, for my Census Corps people, thanks to some census data, the state controller, Thomas DiNapoli, recently pointed out that about 78% of the businesses that have less than 500 employees, which is what legally is considered a small business. I know you probably think of a small business as like 10 people, but less than 500 people is considered a small business. And 78% of them are still to this day negatively impacted by the pandemic. So we're talking about places being closed and gone, or having to let go a lot of employees. And that has, a ripple effect.
Yeah, there's a cafe and coffee shop down the block from me that has been in existence for 15, 20 years. And really soon into the pandemic, maybe by April or May, there was a sign in the window and it said, "We're so sorry, we're closed and closed for good because of coronavirus. Thank you to the community who has supported us for 15 years. We wish we could be here, but we can't. Goodbye."
Oh my God. Oh my God. Well,
And and they were a small Latino owned business.
Oh no.
In the neighborhood that had been serving coffee and food, and it was like just a local place where people went to hang out, and you get to know people. You live here a long time, and they're gone now.
Yeah. I know that there has been a disproportionate impact on a lot of the ethnic groups that make New York so exciting, who have traditionally been able to get an economic foothold by owning their own business and doing their thing. And a lot of those places are gone. They're gone. And the ones that are still here, they're struggling and they need help. Help from who, you might ask? Funny you should ask that. Well, look, let's look at some of the neighborhoods. Okay. When you're looking at this neighborhood, Melissa, I'm going to wager that your zip code that you grew up in is on this list?
My zip code that I grew up in is on this list, and every neighborhood that I've ever lived in the Bronx is on this list.
Now, for those of you who are living in the Bronx, is your zip code on this list? It probably is. It probably, I mean, this one has a lot of different zip codes on it, so there's a high chance that your zip code is on this list. And the Bronx has historically been economically debilitated, so it would only be enhanced by the effects of the pandemic.
And what does this really mean? Like, what do you mean by most impacted by COVID?
Well, we have the issue with the businesses being harmed, and you also have socially, you have people whose personal lives have been upended. It's not just being bored, okay? There's also children being able to go to school and interact with other people. Young children, I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about, people who are like 10, 11, 6, 5, whose development and education is mostly through socialization. It's not about learning the times tables. Those things are important too. But at that age, it's really developing your social intellect, your emotional literacy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is lost. And then you have a rise in domestic crimes. People being harmed, people being neglected, whether it's a spouse or a caretaker or a parent, a sibling. There has been, quite a bit of negative impacts that go beyond the economic. And it's also correlates, unfortunately, with people's economic position. So if you're having money problems, that's only going to shorten the fuse and increase the list of possible things that could have somebody behave in an imbalanced way.
And then just the obvious health related data. These are the zip codes where there were the highest positivity rates, the most hospitalizations, and then unfortunately the most deaths as a result of COVID. And as we go through these next few slides, you'll get to see each borough, the different neighborhoods, which you may very well live in one of these neighborhoods and probably do. These are the places where people got sick the most, struggled the most, where businesses struggle the most. And the impacts, it's going to take a while to come back and for things to get better than they are now. And, what you were saying before, these are neighborhoods that were challenged as it were. They were already dealing with various socioeconomic challenges. And then on top of that, COVID happened, which has an even greater impact. It hits harder. If you're already vulnerable and somebody swings a punch at you, it kind of hits harder. You get hurt harder, hurt more. So again, here we are in Queens, and when you look at these neighborhoods, who lives here. These are communities of where people are high numbers of immigrants and people who are struggling in various ways, just trying to make it as it is.
What about we've spoken a bit about the economy, but I know that you have done some really good research about the kind of specifics of those impacts. Could you tell us about that?
So in wanting to really contextualize why this program, the CUNY Recovery Corps, is so vitally important. Because in addition to, providing students with the opportunity to learn and learn some skills, develop new skills, work, earn some money, it really, you have to put it in the context of what is the impact of 5,000 people, working towards something. When you look at these graphs, so what I did was I did some research on what was the true impact of COVID on New York City's economy. Because I know there were jobs that just disappeared. People started working from home, and some jobs cannot be worked from home. If you worked in a preschool or a school, and you were not a union worker, teachers, were covered. Teachers, they did their classes online. But if you were a part-time worker, if you work in a early child care center, those jobs disappeared for the time of the initial shutdown, and in some places are still working their way back to opening up. If you don't have the kind of job where you can work from home and do your job, because your job is not sitting at a computer answering email, right?
That's
You're
a good point.
actually a doing person in the economy.
You're working, right?
You have to physically
work in the
leave your
physics
home
sense.
and go to the place where the work happens and
Right.
do the work with your physical self, right? With your hands, your body.
Right.
And so I looked at some of the industries, the sectors that were hardest hit. And I came up with a few that I saw, I was able to, that I thought would be really good examples. So one of them was the childcare industry. And as you can see in this graph, it starts off at about 38,000 jobs, if I'm reading that right, back in January 2020. And then in March, you see the abrupt drop. And as you can see over time, it kind of stabilized and it went down again in July. If you remember, this all corresponds to the various surges, outbreak, and then the surges of COVID. You can even imagine this. If the graph is going down here, it's because COVID is going up. So as COVID goes up, so we had a spike in April that shut us all down. And I'm sure everyone remembers that. Middle of March to April, everything was kind of shut down. Then we had a little bit of a reprieve, but then you see another drop. And that was because there was a surge happening post 4th of July or something like that.
How much of that was because of the outbreak, and how much of it was because we were told close everything down?
I think they go hand in hand. As the numbers, increased and shutdowns happened, it had a direct impact on whether or not employment was available. And I'm sure that there's correlating data with unemployment numbers that, match these graphs. And so, I also looked at the restaurant industry. And again, you can see that sharp decline, and then it kind of gradually comes up a little bit. But we're nowhere near where we were. The whole point is that we were nowhere near where they were in January 2020. And so these impacts are real. These are not just graphs. These are people's jobs. This is people's ability to pay their bills and support their families.
Like that restaurant you were talking about.
Yeah, because not only is that restaurant closed and unfortunately can't buy coffee there anymore, but there were like 20 people who worked in there. Delivery guys and baristas and guys in the kitchen. And so it's definitely all connected. I looked at a couple of other sectors just to further illustrate this point.
Yeah, we're looking at this one you have here with like performing arts and amusements, amusements and recreations. I wonder what those are.
That's like the Bronx Zoo, the
Oh, right,
aquarium,
of course.
um, roller skating rinks.
Oh man, were those running? People using those? Oh, you know what? They had that one over in Prospect Park.
Yes, left
That's
back center.
right.
Yeah. So places like that were just completely shut down. And so you can see this, and this area of the economy is like completely optional, right? Like there are things that are, we have to go buy things. Eventually, supermarkets never closed. There are places that remained open. And there were other places that like performing arts centers, and there was no sports. Remember, there were no sports at all.
That's right.
And
I remember LeBron James said that he was refusing to play if the fans weren't going to be there. I remember those days. That was crazy.
yeah, so sports arenas, performing arts, the ballet, the opera, movie theaters, um, the zoo, the aquarium, the botanical gardens, like all of these places that is part of the thriving life of New York City,
And the economy, right? Tourism
and the
like
economy.
huge for New York.
Right. I mean, and not only external tourism, but like internal tourism. Like you go to the Bronx Zoo, right?
I go roller skating in Prospect Park.
Right.
I've
So
taken my kids there. I personally no. I'm too old.
So, you could see here, this is 2020 again, January 2020, where things were, and where they were by the end of the year. The graph on the right side of the screen is the retail sector, which is everything that we buy. Going back to your Amazon slide, our shopping and everything changed. It changed the way we shopped. Everything you ever needed, you bought it online. You're no longer walking into a store and to buy your sneakers or your milk or whatever else. There was no shopping. And so mid-March, you see that the dramatic dip. And even up to last October, still not even things are opening up, but things are still not where they were when all of this started of January of last year. And those are jobs, and those are businesses, and mostly small businesses.
And I know a lot of students work in retail.
Exactly.
So they probably felt this too. They probably could see that your job is in there, right?
Right. If you worked at Target, or if you worked at Starbucks, or if you worked, anywhere in a retail store, you probably, if you were not considered essential, no longer were able to report to work.
Right.
And if it's a small business who doesn't have online shopping options like a Target or a Walmart, they just didn't need people to come in.
The way that they determine what an essential worker is, I always found that pretty curious too. I had one student who was deemed an essential worker, and she was a cashier at a bodega. And she ended up testing positive. And she lived with her young son and her mother, and they all used to sleep in the same bed. So, they were exposed to a tremendous amount of risk for, jobs where it becomes an expose on what is class when people who work in a bodega are considered essential and you have to come in, but someone who is an attorney is not required to come in.
Correct.
So why are we paying this person so much more money and they're not essential? And all these low-paid people who are doing a lot of work, like you said, with their hands, they're not considered essential.
Yeah, I remember in the very beginning talking to one of the young girls who works in the supermarket across the street from me, who's also a cashier. And she said, honestly, I'm glad I didn't lose my job, but I'm kind of scared to come here every day. And, my family needs the money, so I'm coming to work.
You don't have the option, right? to be safe. They got to put their lives on the line, like literally put their lives on the line for this kind of stuff. I've seen some people who work in Amazon warehouses. They're like, I don't want to put my life on the line so someone can get like a bread maker. Is this really worth my life?
Right, a pasta machine.
But everybody's so happy. Hey, look, I'm making sourdough. And this guy is out here, you know, putting his life on the line to get you that sourdough bread maker.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So what I really hope is that, you know, this puts into context the work and the reason, the purpose of why you're going to be working this summer. You could have signed up for any internship. That's the truth. But this is the one where you are going to be able to make a difference. And I hope that, you know, going through these last few slides, you know, thinking about the most impacted zip codes and the sectors of the economy that have been hardest hit, put into some context the real contribution that every student who goes to this program is going to be able to make this summer.
And because of the resilience of people and the adjustments people have made and the vaccine that many people have also taken, I think we're like over 60% of the adult population, there's been a rebound, right? And you have this graph here that showed some of the effects on the economy because of the comeback story that we're now experiencing.
I mean, it's a flat incline, but it's still moving in the right direction. We are the lightest blue line, New York City. And so you can see it's still at the bottom of this, you know, this of these four lines. But it's all going in the same direction. The idea and the goal of this program is to, you know, give it a booster. And, you know, many of the organizations that we partnered with, small businesses, nonprofits, you know, many mission-driven nonprofit organizations, and many of you will end up working on your campuses as part of the Welcome Back to Campus story that you're all going to participate in. You know, whether you are on the Welcome Corps, whether you are on working with admissions, welcoming new students, going on tours, beautifying your campus. There are many different ways that campuses are going to have you be a part of that welcome back story. You're going to be making a difference wherever you're placed.
And for people who are doing that kind of welcome back thing, right? What would that really even be like? Like how do you show warmth in this post non having a vaccine, because it's not post COVID, right? But it's post not having a vaccine pandemic life. Now that, you know, there are some relaxation in this sort of 6 foot distance, how ubiquitous the mask wearing is, it's been reduced. There's this thing that they're calling out digital body language. So there's this element of using social media, right, to try to replace or supplement what we would normally do and not think about as far as social norms. But then it gets more and more difficult, especially for somebody like me, to be careful that what you're conveying is being received the way you intend it to. I think the most traditional one we know about is yelling, digitally yelling, right? What's digitally yelling?
All caps?
That's what I think. That's what I think, right? I remember we talked about texting, remember? And the importance or the significance of punctuation. Do you remember that? So like yelling could be all caps. It could also be using an exclamation point. But if you don't have punctuation, if you respond to somebody saying something, you're just like, yeah, with no punctuation, how might people interpret that?
I'm not following you. I'm sorry.
Like, I mean, if you say something to somebody, right, and then you agree with it and you want to say, yeah, but in texting, if you text, yeah, but you don't put like an exclamation point, somebody might see that as you're like, yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's true.
Or if you write sure, right? If you're thinking sure, like you want to go such and for a place, sure, but you don't put an exclamation point there. It just says sure with no punctuation.
Sometimes I get myself in trouble because I will not keep that in mind, and then I'm communicating with someone and then I misinterpreted. So yes, I have been the victim of misinterpretation.
I know you've responded to me a couple of times when I didn't put the proper punctuation, and you would type, "Why do you hate me?" Further illustrating how something so seemingly innocuous has become interpreted as being rude or dismissive. The little etiquettes of social media have taken precedent over just normal conversation. For me, when I'm teaching class, when we first went online, people were more apt to put their cameras on. It's already difficult to teach, like, yelling into a laptop, but at least if you had the cameras on, then there was some sense of connection.
Yes.
It's not real eye contact, but it kind of feels like it's eye contact. And so now that people are, by and large, keeping their cameras off for any number of reasons, right? It could be the place where they are at the moment is not a place they want anybody to know where they are for their own privacy. It could be that they want to lay in bed and they don't want nobody to know they're laying in bed. It could be any reason along the continuum. But then that ends up having a disconnect with the person that you're interacting with. And that becomes even more important in the workplace. Like when you're on your summer internship, and we're now sort of in this norm of using different abbreviations to say things, not having our cameras on, little things that help people feel like they're being acknowledged or heard get lost. And so when you don't have something as simple as the ability to nod your head when somebody's saying something or typing something, the person is not feeling like they're getting approval. And whether we want to admit it or not, humans are social creatures and we crave approval. And when you don't get something as simple as a, yeah, okay, it wears on you. And it could be that in your own placement, when people aren't feeling like you're hearing them, they're not getting a head nod or the digital equivalent of a head nod, they might be quicker to assume the worst in interpreting whatever it is you're saying or typing or doing remotely. Something like using an emoji could actually be helpful. I think before the pandemic, I would advise people, don't you dare use an emoji in a professional setting. But now, when social media has become hand in hand with doing your professional job effectively, using those little things becomes helpful. Have you found yourself using emojis at work, like with work people talking about work things?
Well, in our working on this project, we use Slack. I don't know if you've ever used Slack before. It's kind of like a digital office. Um, and it has the option of replying to people's um, messages because it's all messaging. It reduces emails. It's real-time communication, but you can respond with emojis. And instead of saying you write a message asking me a question about timesheets or whatever, and if is it due on Wednesday, and I could just give you a thumbs up as opposed to saying yes, it is due on Wednesday, and then that's easy communication. So yeah, we use emojis all the time. I see
Yes.
your very last bullet is overly friendly,
That's exactly what I was about to get to.
because I have had to remind myself, and I am a seasoned professional. Let's just get that, that's just to be clear.
No doubt.
I am a seasoned professional, but I have noticed that in this environment, and you're working in your house, and you're in your comfortable shoes, your house slippers as you're typing your emails or whatever. Sometimes the filters get a little blurry, and I've had to remind myself, well, pull it back. That's too friendly. That's
Right,
too,
right.
not that it's too friendly, it's too familiar. This is still my coworker. This is not my cousin. For example, like we're close, we communicate every day, we're working on the same things together. My personality, I know yours, and still we are colleagues. And so I have had to remind myself as a seasoned professional adult that sometimes I need to just reel it in.
And I find this often talking with students all the time, having to remember that I'm not talking to 30 people. I'm talking to one person, 30 different one-on-one conversations. And those conversations are not happening in neutral territory, like a classroom. They're in their bedroom. I'm in mine. And when you are home, naturally, you want to defend your turf. It's your own private, intimate space. And so when people say or do things in the virtual world, it has that possibility of feeling that much more intrusive. We have to be even more sensitive to how we're dealing with one another. We're trying to reach through the technology to stay connected, and we have to mitigate the fact that we are still in our own corners. So you're trying to draw a person out while still respecting their space. Whether you are a person who needs to gauge your behavior, like you may, if you're a very friendly person, the technology might help you to enhance that friendliness. And sometimes you might say something, maybe you're saying something or typing something or emojiing something that someone else finds very uncomfortable. And they're not even comfortable enough to say that they're uncomfortable. And then it makes things worse. So it's good to learn about some of the things that you might be doing that would cause somebody discomfort, as well as what you could do if you are feeling uncomfortable. Whether or not the person intends it, if you're feeling uncomfortable, then it's real for you.
So everyone is required to do this sexual harassment training. It's like with any job you would ever start. Most places of employment, if not all places of employment, require a sexual harassment training so that you can be aware of your own behavior and language, so that you don't inadvertently offend someone or harass someone. But it's also to empower you, so that if it is happening to you, you know exactly what to do. So Sexual harassment is never okay. That I think has become clearer over the years. I think that's much more clear, today than it was even just 5 years ago. Sexual harassment trainings have evolved in this time, and everyone is required to participate in sexual harassment. You will get a link to this if you have not already. It's a very simple thing that you can do. You will get information about this through your campus manager, through an email. And what you'll do is you'll click on the link, you'll go through the training. It takes about 45 minutes. And at the end of that, you will get a completion certificate that shows, yes, I, Melissa Fernandez, completed my sexual harassment training. I know what to do and what not to do. And you will get that certificate, and you will provide that certificate to your campus manager. These are a few of the very strict checks that we have to go through in order for you to be cleared for matching. So until you do your sexual harassment training, until you get to the end of this video and complete any final requirements of this part of the training, there might be a quiz. You hope you're paying attention. You have to be able to check things off, and sexual harassment training is definitely one of them. You will not, I repeat, you will not be placed in an internship, even though you've jumped through all of these hoops already, if you do not complete the sexual harassment training and do not provide a copy of your completion certificate to your campus manager. We will not legally be able to place you in a 6-week internship. So please, follow up on that, and don't be on that list of people that we have to call and say, hey, did you do your training yet? So the training is through an exterior link. It's not here. You can't click on anything here. You will get an email with the link, and it will take you to the official New York City website that all New York City employees must complete. And you are actually if you're in this program, we picked you and selected you. However, you will officially be an employee of the city. And so it's their website. You go to it, you click on it, and it's paced and it's timed. And it's something that you have to do from beginning to end. So make sure that you have at least 45 minutes to an hour block of time where you will not be interrupted, where you're not walking in the street. You have a solid 45 minutes to 1 hour chunk of time that you're going to sit still, sit at a computer or on your phone, where you'll be able to go through this training. So the way it works is, it's kind of like they provide information, then it stops. You get a little quiz, a little question and answer, true, false, to see if you understand what the material was that was just presented, and then it'll allow you to go on. There are some very, specific specs that you will see here. Make sure that you are on the right browser that you can see here. It's really important. You can't save your progress. So don't start the thing and then say, oh, I forgot, I have to go and run and pick something up from the store, or you can't refresh your page. You have to do it all in one sitting. Once you get to the end, you'll be able to print or save it to your computer or your phone. I don't know what kind of person you are. Maybe you need that piece of paper. You need to print it to show that it's real. Hold it in your hand, or you can download it onto your computer. But either way, you could also do a screenshot of the certificate, or I think that you can also have the option of emailing the certificate to yourself. It's very important that you get the certificate, because this is your proof that you completed the training, that you will have to provide to your campus manager in order to be placed, matched and placed to your 6-week internship. So that's everything I have to say about that. It's very important.
Oh yeah.
And required, mandatory.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this is all mandatory, but this one is legal trouble mandatory. Okay. All of this is mandatory in order for you to be able to participate in the program and to have the best possible experience and to take advantage of all of the supports that are available to you. And the sexual harassment training is something that you are receiving, but it's also something that you are giving to the program. You're becoming a better, more aware, more conscientious person. And that helps everyone. It's important for us to have some time for ourselves. We're the star of the show, right? As far as the vaccine is concerned, on CUNY campuses, the news on that is always changing. So by the time between us recording this and when you're watching it, things may have changed again. But currently, there isn't a mandate that you have to be vaccinated to be on campus. So for those of you who are placed in a campus, it is not mandatory that you're vaccinated, but it is highly, highly encouraged that you are. And by the time fall classes hit, also, it might be mandated at that point that you're vaccinated if you want to do anything on campus as well. But like I said, that stuff is changing often. Let's look at some of the things that you can do from home as far as doing your home office sort of stuff. For those of you who are going to be doing work from home, you've already had quite a bit of experience these last 2.5 semesters of doing things at home. And this could be like a refresher or a check. So like as we're going through some of these checklist stuff, then you can look around your space right now and say, okay, am I matching that? When you're reporting for your summer job, you need to be in a part of your home that your mind is on summer job stuff. Don't multitask. You're being recruited and compensated because we want you and we're paying you for your time. So make sure that you are giving what you bargained with us for. Having some plants. Now I can see Melissa, she's got her plant there. I've got a plant here as well. It's just off camera, but they're important to have, just to have life around you, but also for oxygen. That's very important. Lighting, similarly, daylight is best because you're getting vitamin D, which is a thing. Okay, so having the artificial light is good for you to see things, but as far as you're getting the kind of nutrition that you need, daylight does provide vitamin D. So you want to make sure that you're as close as your resources allow to a window that you can use. And if you can open up that window, all the better. You may live in a space where you're not able to open your windows, especially with the summer coming. Today is an exceptionally warm day, and more days will be like that. So air circulation is going to be key. And if you're not able to open your windows, then if you're able to work in a space where the doors can be open, that's going to be helpful for you as you are working over the summer for hours on end. What you're sitting on will make a big difference. So please, you're probably on your bed right now, but you should not be doing professional stuff where you're getting paid, if we mean by professional stuff, in the reclined position for many reasons. I mean, we went over sort of that becoming overly friendly aspect. If you're so comfortable, then you begin to make some mistakes because you're not as attentive, you're not as much on your P's and Q's as if you dressed and sat as if you were in front of other people and they were around you that whole time. And then your work product's going to suffer. And if your work product suffers, then the way people perceive your capabilities is going to be suffering. Okay. And we want you to show off all of those wonderful features we saw when we said, yes, let's have this person be a part of Recovery Corps. If you can get a seat that has a back to it, and that you can move around it, it's not constraining, that's best. If you don't have those resources, look, man, you sit wherever you can find a seat. But best practices is to find a seat that's going to position you, that you're not having to tilt your head up to look at your screen all day, or like crouch over down, so that you can kind of look forward and do your work. You're going to be able to get through your day a lot healthier and happier at the end of the day, as opposed to like having pains and just being aggravated and associating recovery core with feeling uncomfortable. And we don't want that. For those of you who are creative, you have an excuse, man, to put those wonderful things around you that you made. Or if you have loved ones who've created things for you, or you just really like it and you want to take it, you can say, I'm doing it for work. I'm doing it for work. And surround yourself with things that make you feel good, that reinforce you. So, I mean, you're going to be spending a fair amount of your time at home and at work at the same time. So while you want to create an office space that is your space, have some ambassadors from you, the you world, and bring that in and have that there for you. And feel free to rotate the kinds of things that you have around you that remind you of who you are and why you chose to do what you're choosing to do. Do I need to say anything about this one, y'all? Okay, getting dressed from the waist up. It definitely has its benefits, but I know, for me anyway, that the way that I dress does play a role in my mindset when I'm going into something. That includes, I'm going to say it, y'all, brushing your teeth and taking a shower. These sorts of regular routines that we did when we were always going out are part of what psychologically gets you in the mindset of, I'm going to do work now. And when you skip those things, that's when you start really blending that informal sort of an attitude into your schoolwork. As a professor, I've seen it, and your work on recovery core. So please reintroduce yourself to your morning routines of brushing your hair, brushing your teeth, scrubbing your body, and putting on a fresh set of clothes. And every so often, you want to get up and get outside. Okay, I've recently adopted a dog, so he forces me to get out and move every few hours. And I have to say, it's been to my benefit to get the heart going, get fresh air. Every few hours, you're going to want to get up and do that. Walking around your apartment is not the same thing. Okay, so take some time, especially with the weather being so nice. Don't multitask. Like, don't try to take a walk through the park and go through one of your work meetings, but you should take time during the day, every few hours, to move around, get active, get the blood going. And if you're an exercise person, or if you're not an exercise person, as long as you got a good sweat going for 30 minutes straight, that is a workout, whatever it is you're doing. Okay.
On the days that I really have to get my mind activated, I'll simulate a commute.
What does that look like?
I get dressed, I put on lip gloss, whatever, do my hair as I'm going outside, and then I will take literally a 10-minute walk. I'll walk 3 blocks and then come back.
Wow.
To simulate a commute.
That's crazy.
It actually works for me.
Now, here are some other things that you could do. Every week or month, however you want to break it up. I think daily might be a bit much, right? If you take the letters of your name, right? So Melissa has 2 S's, so she can stretch twice for her activities, her recovery activities. So if you're trying to think of things to do to try to mix things up for yourself, here's a nice little cheat sheet that you can take a screenshot of and refer to it, things that you can do. Find different ways that you can mix it up and try some of these activities, y'all. Now, when it comes to what you're doing at the work site proper, let's have a little talk, y'all. Let's have a little talk. There are some elements of the internship and the training that I feel like, do I really need to tell these people this? When I'm designing a training, I think, what would I want to know? And what would I be expecting if I went to something that was titled this thing? And there are some parts of this where I feel like, do I really need to be told, show up on time? I mean, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And then I do the training. A couple of weeks pass by, and the director of the program will say, can you believe that X person is complaining about our intern because they are not coming in on time? They are not responding to their emails. And I will say, you got to be kidding me. Not responding to your email? How hard is that? Come on, man. So let me say once, you are expected to be on time. That is a given. It is not something to be congratulated over. It is not something that you go to an interview and brag about. My last job, I was on time all the time. Do you know how you sound when you brag about the fact that you can inhale and exhale? It doesn't look good, y'all. It doesn't look good. And don't tell me about culture this, culture that. I'm West Indian. I know all about that. I ain't trying to hear that. Be on time. There is no such thing as early. There's on time and there's late. You do not get bonus time for being early, but you will get docked for being late. And since the commute, Melissa notwithstanding, is 0 for most of you, if you are showing up to your virtual meetings late, you have to seriously evaluate your decisions. Not everything has to be done right now. You don't have a such thing as several priorities. Then they're not priorities. There's only one priority. Figure out what that priority is and do that thing. And when you're participating in Recovery Corps, the time that you put on that timesheet, Recovery Corps is your priority. Nothing else. If you have other things to do, which I'm sure you do those things. But don't try to do them in tandem with Recovery Corps. Block out time to do those things. But when you are slated to do work for your employer, your campus, your community-based organization, your governmental agency, whatever entity that is, that's your priority. If you are being emailed, or if they expect you to email them, you have to respond to that email within 12 hours. 12 hours is more than enough time for you to respond to an email. Remember we talked about a digital head nod? Sometimes the email is something as simple as saying, understood.
Or thanks. Or thanks for your email. I'm going to get back to you after I review the materials.
Even if you don't have time to review it right then.
And this is really connected to the culture of that workplace. There are some cultures, some workplace cultures where they expect communication even sooner than that. And so it's really important to pay attention to what the communication culture is of wherever you're working this summer and forever, because you are stepping into a culture that already exists. If people are what's the word, accustomed to instant communication, then you get to learn how to be instantly communicative. And it's a good practice, and it's something that you are absolutely responsible for, because you don't want to be misinterpreted. And your lack of response or your slow response could be interpreted as you're not on top of your responsibilities, or you don't care, or you're distracted, or you're not invested. And these are all things that you may not be intending to communicate, which are being communicated based on how you're not communicating. Whether you are emailing or in some type of digital office like Slack or Office Teams or whatever other platforms a worksite might use. These types of communications are way more important in the absence of the physical interaction. So it's really important that you figure out what that expectation is, so that you're able to meet it and do well.
And I'm going to wager that some of you are thinking, well, but my situation, no, not your situation. The many demands, real demands that you have, we acknowledge them. We're not just talking to the person who's just a lazy bum and needs to get off their lazy behind and do the right thing. We're also talking to you, new expectant mother who's going to have a baby in 2 months and has complications. We're talking to you too. Person who has 2 other jobs. And one of them is as a security guard overnight. And you're real tired during the day. Yes, we're talking to you too. You are not the exception. We're talking to you. If we wasn't talking to you, you would not have been admitted to the program. Okay? Because there are other people who had other big responsibilities and thought, yeah, I can do this too. And we said, I know you think that, but we don't agree. You're not ready. We believe that you are ready. Yes, with all of the responsibilities that you are currently dealing with now, including while you're listening to us and you're thinking, oh my God, I gotta, yeah, you respond to those emails at the pace at which the place you're working at typically responds to emails. And I'm sure you've detected with people when you first start texting somebody, right? The first few times they respond, you're either thinking, whoa, that was quick, or man, when did they respond? You know how to read that culture. It's no different in the professional setting. I say 12 hours because after 12 hours, dude, you better be dead if you can't respond in 12 hours. But every place is going to have their expectations that are not written out. It's just the way that things are done there. And the way in which you type, like the phrases that you use, whether you're using proper grammar, capitalizing the first letter of a sentence that does have a period on it, use proper grammar at the work site. If you're at a work site where they are just super informal and that's how they do, hey, I mean, personally, if I was the intern, I still wouldn't do that, okay? I'm new to the game. I'm just trying to do what I got to do, and that's it. If you want to go in there and act like you could smoke cigars with the big boys and all of that, good luck to you, but I'm saying better to be on the safe side, okay? Play it straight. Make sure you are dependable and reliable. All right. Most of the time, people aren't looking for excellence. They're looking for reliable. If I put this in front of this person, I have a good sense as to what the output is going to be. They prefer that than a person who's a superstar one moment and then is going to spin out and disappear the next. That's not how you run a business. That's not how you bring this city back. It's continued excellence over time. So that means that you don't burn yourself out in the beginning. I'm going to impress everybody and they're going to think I'm the greatest thing in the world. If you cannot maintain that pace, don't put that out there. It's better to continually, gradually improve than to come out shooting out like a rocket and then fall off. So you want to carve out who it is you want your professional persona to be. How do you want other people to view you in a professional setting? And I know that I've said this earlier very quickly and you may not have caught it, so let me repeat it. When I say professional, I mean you're getting paid. Not that you're an expert. Being a professional and an expert are two different things. If you're being paid, you're a professional. A lot of times people conflate that with expertise. Why? Because if you're being paid for something, you better be good at it. But let's be clear, you're already a professional because you're being paid for this. So act like it. Act like somebody has put forth money for you to be around and do a particular thing. Do that thing. And if you're having difficulty with doing that thing, communicate that. Communicate that with the person at your work site. Communicate that to somebody from Recovery Corps. Of course, you have your loved ones, right? You have your dog, hopefully, or your cat. I know Melissa's a cat person, but whatever animal you have, right? They're all good supports, but we are here to make sure that you are displaying the professional person that you want to display. If you make a mistake, look, we all make mistakes all the time. Some of us, like myself, I make more mistakes than when I get things right. We just ask that you be accountable for your own behavior, for the things that you are responsible to accomplish. If you're working with other people on things, and that's going to happen more times than you're going to be able to do things all on your own. It's much better. Believe me, your professional persona is much better reflected in your being open and admitting when you need help or when something is going out of your control and you need some extra support. That's much better than pretending that everything is all right and hoping nobody notices the mess until after you're gone. So as you're devising your professional persona, make sure that you have a portion of that dedicated to accountability. Be honest when your coworker or your supervisor asks you about whether you can accomplish something by a given deadline. I'm not saying to make excuses, but you want to be honest with what you're able to do and when you need help. And when things go wrong, to say, I messed that up. Here's what I'm going to do it better.
And in order to support you, there are a couple of different layers. Everyone will have a supervisor at their work site, somebody that is directly there to support you and sign your timesheets and make sure you know what you're doing. But every campus will also have a campus manager who's managing, overseeing the entire project. You might be one person in a group or by yourself at a work site doing a particular thing, but every campus is going to have a couple of hundred students representing that campus. working throughout the city, whether remotely or in person. So your campus manager is in place to give you the support, help you if you are confused about something, or if you feel like you've are having a particular challenge. They're there to support you. That's the reason why we have that structure in place. You are one of 5,000 who are doing this project, and a part of a cohort at your campus, of, it could be 50 people at your campus, it could be up to 500 people at your campus who are participating in this in some way, shape, or form. And so, like I said at the very beginning, our greatest hope and desire is that you are successful, and that you are practicing some of these professional skills that are highly valued in every work environment, and where you are may not be that good at something, or you're using this as an opportunity to like sharpen and hone some skills. This is a great opportunity to practice. Practice your writing, practice your communication, practice your ability to receive feedback, practicing your being as reliable as possible. These are all things that are going to have an impact on the way people experience you as a young professional, as well as their perception of the value that a CUNY student, a CUNY graduate can bring into a work environment. And that's always my secret agenda, is to ensure that the workplace out there understands the amazing contribution that CUNY can make, CUNY students can make to any business and in any sector. And so you're always representing that. Even if you're not aware of that, you are representing all of CUNY all the time. And the value that you can bring to the table will open doors for those who come behind you.
And that greatness does not occur when things are going well. It's the reason why we made sure to devote an appreciable amount of time with you today to emphasize the difficulty of the environment that we're in now. That amount of difficulty, the flip side is the amount of opportunity you have to be great. Crisis has a way of revealing character.
In 2012, you may or may not remember, Superstorm Sandy hit New York City and devastated, to the shock and dismay of all of us. This huge storm that created storm surges. I remember seeing these pictures of train stations underground. The city was pretty much shut down for a week. There was no subway service for a week. And some of the CUNY campuses were damaged, especially the ones by the water, like Kingsborough, and BMCC, because of where it was in terms of like the low land in New York City. But there was tremendous damage. What happened after that, so that was something unplanned, unexpected, unplanned, and the response to it was varied. No one ever expected for train stations to be submerged. Anytime that there's been an issue or a question, a challenge, part of the solution always involves CUNY, some way, somehow. And what ended up happening after Superstorm Sandy was that CUNY became part of the response to this disaster, and unplanned. CUNY alumni and students were part of volunteer efforts. Some of the campuses became a refuge to those who had been displaced. And all of that happened in fall of 2012. In 2013, our then Chancellor Goldstein heard all these stories and said to himself, what would it look like if there was a core of students at the ready who could help support and be a response to any disaster or event that happened in New York City. And from that thought in his mind came the CUNY Service Corps. CUNY Service Corps has been in existence. That first year, we started out by sending 1,000 students, pairing them at nonprofit organizations that were dedicated to various missions in education and health. And since then, about 7,000 students have been a part of CUNY Service Corps. When something else came up, we were also part of that solution. So in 2017, there was a horrible hurricane that hit the Caribbean and actually tore right through the heart of Puerto Rico. Governor Cuomo launched an initiative, New York Stands with Puerto Rico. And like I said before, whenever there is a problem or an issue or a challenge, CUNY is often called on to be part of the solution. A year later, 2018 and 2019, both CUNY and SUNY students went out to Puerto Rico, 500 students altogether from CUNY, to participate in the rebuilding, got on roofs, rebuilt roofs, and helped people to return to normalcy. We spread our reach even further. One thing that I did not include here, and I don't know if maybe you thought of it and included it, last year was 2020, and what happens every 10 years? The census, right? And so the Census Corps was also born out of the challenge of getting people to complete the census, making sure, and census is connected to resources and representation in Congress and elected officials. And CUNY was part of that solution of making sure that the census count in New York City was accurate and as high as it could possibly be. Again, CUNY had a Census Corps, a core of students who use social media, who did research, did presentations, shared information, encouraged others to fill the census. That was part of the solution. And on top of that, they did it as the pandemic hit, and started in March, and census was due by when? June, July?
Well, I mean,
so that was,
they ended up pushing it back, but yeah.
Yeah, so that was another way that, part of the this track record of CUNY being at the ready to help solve problems, to address issues. That was another way. The CUNY Recovery Corps is just the next one, the next program in line that is in response to this unplanned, unforeseen, impossible to imagine crisis of our lives, of our generation, the coronavirus of 2020. And again, CUNY has been called upon by the city of New York. And these are the biggest numbers yet. 5,000 of you have been applied and have been selected to be part of this revitalization, rebirth, renaissance, whatever you want to call it, of helping the city get back on its feet. You are a part of this culture of service that has been cultivated in this century, over the last 10 years for sure, of CUNY being part of the solution, CUNY being ready. Understand that there's 4,999 others of you, and the impact and the contribution that you are making in your 25 hours a week for 6 weeks in the summer of 2021 is part of a history of service and of being part of the solution. So no matter where you're working, you might be working at your campus, you might be working in person, you might be working at home, you might be working for a nonprofit or a city agency, or directly doing research, working with a professor at your campus. You are a part of a greater story, and one that we are very proud of. And it makes my professional life way more meaningful. I'm not selling, I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not in finance. I don't I'm not a whatever those people are. I do this because every day I get to come to work and make a difference in supporting students to do really important things. And sometimes people say, "Oh, well, service. How are you gonna put that on your resume, and how does that make you a better professional?" It does, because number one, little do you know, it makes you way more interesting of a candidate for anything else. It demonstrates that you care, that you are willing to give back, that you have a vision and a connection to something out there greater than yourself. It's not just me, and my resume. You could, like I said before, you could have applied to any internship. You could have signed up for any old thing. But you didn't. You saw this recovery core, something caught your eye, something clicked in your brain, and you pressed on that button. You said, a recovery core, that speaks to me. Let me find out more about that. And here you are, service-oriented professional opportunities that you can be excited about and talk about with passion comes through in your next job interview. Well, what did you do the summer of 2021? Oh, well, let me tell you all about it. I worked for this organization. I got an internship in the CUNY Recovery Corps. I was part of the revitalization and recovery of New York City, blah, 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 et cetera. And you can talk about something with passion at a job interview, at your next opportunity. Like I said, it makes you way more interesting when you can talk about something passionately that you care about versus just a rote response to some previous experience you may or may not have.
Let's go through some questions that they probably have been itching to ask, and then they say, "Oh, wait a second, this person can't see me. This is recorded." So here's one that they're going to ask. Now, they wouldn't ask it outright. Okay, whenever I do these things, no one actually says these words, but that's what they really mean. So if you could, please answer some of these questions. Like, what's in it for me?
What's in it for you? I think it's perfectly fine to approach a professional opportunity from this perspective as well, because it should always be a two-way a two-way exchange, right? It should be an exchange, actually. You should be providing, you should also be getting. And then a cyclical type of experience. So I think that it's perfectly fine to approach a professional opportunity from what's in it for me.
Maybe not saying that outright, but
absolutely not. Never say that.
Right?
Never say that.
Look, you gotta tell these millennials that, man. I'm just saying, because they're like, well, what's in it for me? I need this design with just me in mind. And if it's not important to me, I'm not gonna do it.
Well,
so it's not something I can say, but it's perfectly appropriate for you to have that question in mind.
Absolutely. And you should always be in a position where you're receiving as well as, being a contribution toward something in your work world. So what's in it for you? Number one, it's an opportunity for you to gain, develop, or practice some professional skills and to gain some real experience. Many of you may have had many job experiences. You may have a couple of part-time jobs right now, but it may not be in the field connected to what you want to do in the future. So this is an opportunity for you to level up a little experience and to gain some professional skills. You should be thinking about, what is it that I want to gain or improve in terms of skills? Are you a good public speaker? Are you a good, planner? Think of something that you can do, that you can practice, that you can, make that happen for yourself this summer. It's also an opportunity for you to give back to your community. And I know that this is something that I have heard from students many, many times, that they would love to give back. They would love to be of a contribution to their community, but who has time for that? I'm a full-time student. I have a full-time job, or I have 2 part-time jobs. I'm taking care of my siblings or my child of my own. Giving back is sometimes just a luxury that we can't afford. And so this is an opportunity by being a part of the Recovery Corps to give back to your community and still get a check at the end of the process while you're learning some new skills and leveling up your
doing good.
And leveling up your resume. You're also at the same time have a chance to give back to your community. These communities are the ones that we live in. There are communities. We're here. We're from here. We live here. And so giving back to your community is actually a civic responsibility should you choose to accept it. And it's only bettering the environments that we all live and come from and understand. What's in it for you is that you get to be an ambassador for CUNY. CUNY students are smart, talented, capable, creative, flexible, hardworking. Don't ever let anybody tell you that a CUNY student is not hardworking, because you all are full-time students, part-time jobs, full-time jobs, taking care of your families, taking care of grandparents, taking care of your parents, all of the things that you always do. And so when you take that kind of energy and put it in a workplace, it's like on fire. So the contribution that a CUNY student can make, or the CUNY graduate can make on in the world of work, has an impact, a direct impact on what the perception of that value that you bring. And it definitely leaves the door open behind you for other CUNY graduates, other CUNY students to also walk through. Remember, these work partners, these employer partners that we are cultivating for your placements, they didn't just drop out of the sky. These are organizations, companies, professional entities that have been, the relationships have been cultivated over time. Many of these relationships have been ongoing and are connected to other programs like the CUNY Service Corps, the CUNY Cultural Corps, and other CUNY programs that have been, working on these relationships for years. And the reason why we're able to place 5,000 students is because we have worked very hard at making sure that we have developed these relationships on your behalf.
And so the students like you who did those other internships proved all of the promises that Melissa and other people make about CUNY students. So people like you have done this so that you can do this.
There are many CUNY Service Corps students, graduates, alum who are watching this video, who have made a great impression on their employers, and have, their employers want to continue working with us. So yeah, serving as an ambassador for CUNY is a responsibility that I am putting on your shoulders. It is important that you remember, again, as you sit in your computer by yourself, that you are connected to something so much bigger. It's so much more important than just you getting your $15 an hour at the end of the 2 weeks. You're connected to something much more than that. It's also an opportunity for you to do some career exploration. 6 weeks is a great amount of time for you to check something else out, do something a little bit different. It's not going to derail your career trajectory. If you are an accounting major and you end up working with students in the 8th grade who need tutoring in math, and you're good at math, right? So 6 weeks is a good time for you to be as open-minded and as flexible as possible. It's also a short enough amount of time where maybe you can figure out what you don't want to do. And that's just as important. If you think you want to work with 8-year-olds and then you work with 8-year-olds and you're like, oh my God, 8-year-olds, never. Figuring out what you might want to do, learning that maybe you're good at something you didn't know you were good at. And also, the flip side is figuring out, oh, this is not something that I want to do ever again. Those are really good ways to approach a 6-week internship. So don't undervalue this opportunity to do some career exploration.
And having
And
a variety of work experiences does enhance whatever your primary uh, employment goal is. I know that I have been a more effective professional because I've had a range of experiences doing some things that I haven't done since the one time that I did them. But it does give me a, a level of empathy for other people doing other things that I wouldn't otherwise have if I hadn't experienced it myself.
that's true. Um, and the last thing I'll say about this is this is a great opportunity for you to expand your network just a little bit, your professional network. You will come into contact, through your work site, a variety of professionals who you can make a great impression on, who will remember you next time an opportunity presents itself. So if you go to work, you do a good job, you're pleasant, you're creative, you're responsive, you're reliable, people like you, the next time an opportunity comes up, they say, who do I know? Who do I have that I've worked with that's reliable and creative? And they're like, oh, you, I remember. Yes, I'm going to call that student that I worked with over the summer. That's how networking happens. So
You're
it's
working
always,
with a student right now, right?
we have hired
I'm talking about right now for this.
for this. We actually, yes, there was a student who worked with you
Census
in
Corps.
Census Corps.
Right.
And we learned that he was an editor, and this that you're watching is being
This is
edited.
production.
He's editing for us. It's important that you maintain your good reputation, that you develop a good reputation for the things that you want to be remembered for, and so that when opportunities come up, and that means you have to talk. This was Census Corps, but Charlie worked for Census Corps, but there was not necessarily a film editing responsibility, but he made that known. It became evident through the work that was being done, and then he was remembered for it. And it's even possible that in some instances they might offer you a position at the end of the 6 weeks because you're so indispensable to the project. I'm not saying we can't guarantee that. We always hope that that's going to happen, but it could really happen.
When you're placed in a position that you didn't want, you didn't expect, and now you're being expected to do something that you didn't sign up for. If you are a solid person, you're gonna shine through whatever the situation is. Let me ask you another question, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Where will I work?
Where will you work? Oh, I wish I could tell you exactly where. However, every campus is going to be managing their own matching process. There are right now, as of to this recording, at the end of May, we are working with a variety of organizations to develop work sites. And your campus actually is working on the relationships that they already have in place with employers that are ideally suited to work with students from your campus. So for example, City Tech might have some organizations and companies that they are particularly suited for working in the tech industry. Lehman, who has a very strong education program, might have some particular relationships that are connected to early child care that they have been cultivating for years that maybe come into play. And so those work sites are being developed, and specific positions are being generated through those relationships. A great many of you will be working at your campus because your campus is, we got the word from our chancellor that, campuses are going to begin to open up more and more. And many students, may be returning to classes in the fall. And there is a great welcome back happening across the city at our various campuses. So many of you will end up being a part of those efforts at your particular campus. Others of you will be placed at an organization that has been cultivated, a relationship has been cultivated with to create other positions and projects where you will be plugged in. And those include nonprofit organizations, small businesses, and other companies, city agencies. And then there will be things that are still, that I don't know, that I couldn't tell you because they're still being developed. Wherever you work, it will be toward the greater mission of New York City recovery. I encourage you to be flexible and open-minded in this process. You will work with your campus manager, who's going to get more information from you. So after this training, you'll be in communication with your campus manager. They may send you a survey or a form to get more information about who you are, what you're interested in, what your specific skills might be. And so that way, those skills and interests can be aligned with an organization or a position that matches that. But there is some algorithm that can be worked on. Just trust this. And this is what we're telling our organizations as well. We're telling our organizations, don't worry. We will make sure that you are matched with a student who is intelligent, smart, ready to work, fast learner, interested, all of the things. And what I am encouraging you to do is to be also open-minded about where you may end up placed. We will make every effort, promise, to make sure that the experience you have is meaningful, a place where you can learn, and a place where you can contribute. And so we don't want you to spend 6 weeks miserable. We want to make sure that this is a valuable experience for you, where you're, in addition to earning money, you're also gaining experience that will, level up your resume and also give you an opportunity to give back. So be on the lookout for communication from your campus manager. Like I said, it'll probably come in the form of some type of survey or a form that you fill out. And there will be more information that they will seek from you in order to ensure that you're placed somewhere that aligns with your interests and your ability to be of a contribution. We don't have exact details because Baruch may do it differently than Hostos, who that may do it differently than John Jay. And so we ask you, one, to be patient, to be flexible, to be open-minded, and to be ready.
And truth be told, let's get this secret out in the open. None of these programs have been phenomenal because of the jobs and the work that you do. They're phenomenal because of the people who are engaged in it. So the experience that you have is equal to what you're putting into it. Don't expect the program to come to you and show you the light. You're that light. It works because of you, because of CUNY students. So please don't look outside of yourself for what this experience is going to be. But to that end, I still want to ask you, Melissa, what am I going to do? And yes, I gave a shout out to Census Corps. You knew it was coming.
So there's a few different things that I know of currently. There are a few hundred descriptions in the system. So I couldn't tell you every single thing that is up there. You can kind of get a sense of the range of things that you could be doing. So like I said, many of you will be working on or in conjunction with your campus to prep for everybody coming back in the fall. And it could be anything from working with the admissions office, welcoming freshmen, tutoring students who have to pass, the math and writing. Might be working in the writing center if you're a good writer. It could be anything. You might be working to beautify the campus. Open-minded, but think working at my school to make it better. You could also potentially be working for a cultural institution, places like the Botanical Gardens or the Bronx Zoo, the aquarium, and other cultural institutions that we are affiliated with and have been working on developing those relationships. You might be helping a small business develop a website or working with a community organization that has a particular mission. in that community, such as the Point in the Bronx. Going back to our earlier conversations about helping small businesses plan for the future using those business majors that that degree you're working toward, really putting some of these things into action. You might be helping with plans for growth, building websites, social media campaigns, various things to get a small business back on track. There's lots of opportunities in the education field. We'll be working with students of all ages. It could be elementary school, middle school, high school, in tutoring. Many students may or may not know have suffered, their education has suffered during this pandemic. There's a gap in learning because of the lack of the social dynamic of the classroom, or being one-on-one with a teacher in person to get that encouragement and that follow-up. So many students in New York City have suffered over this past school year. Many of you will be partnered at the DOE and addressing some of those challenges. There's even more than that. And you will learn more as you continue in the next steps of as you go through this process. Once this training is over, the matching process will be triggered, and you will get communication from your campus manager about how that's going to work.
If you could tell them a little bit about the timesheets.
Timesheets, absolutely. And many of you probably wish this was the first slide, right? However, here we are. Now that we have your attention, you've been with us all this time, let's talk about your money. Your time, your money, it definitely equals your responsibility. The last thing anyone should ever have to do is remind you to submit your timesheet. Let me say that again. The last thing anyone should ever have to do is remind you to submit your timesheet. So you better make sure that you know, and you will get this from your campus manager, when is the timesheet submission schedule? What is the process? What do I have to do? That's like the first thing you learn at any job. How do I submit my timesheet? In the past, SYEP used to do paper timesheets, mandatory. One of the things that has changed this year, and for our benefit and to your benefit, is that all timesheets are going to be submitted online. You will learn about that process from your campus manager. You will get a login. It's probably you'll log into the system. You will commit your time to it. It should always be accurate. Remember, a timesheet is a legal document that can be held accountable for. Putting time on your timesheet that has not been worked is a form of fraud that you can get in big trouble for. And so make sure that your timesheets are accurate and submitted on time. There are two ways that you can get paid. One is through direct deposit to your bank account, and you should or may have received information about how to create that direct deposit link so that your pay is directly deposited into your bank account. Or you can sign up for a debit card that will be mailed to you, and your pay will be uploaded onto that card every 2 weeks, which sounds very convenient to me. You will get more information about that from your campus manager, including how to submit timesheets and what the calendar is for that. But this is one of your responsibilities that you should take very seriously, so that you can get paid.
I got some more housekeeping for you. If you can speak a little bit about the COVID safety stuff.
Every person in the workplace, in the world of work, is dealing with COVID safety protocols and how do we approach this. And as we have been in pretty reclusive, most people, for the past year plus, this is going to be a transition as people become vaccinated and CDC guidelines shift and change, evolve over time. But one thing is for sure is that COVID is still a reality. You should keep that in mind always. And all of us have different experiences and reactions to that reality. Some of you may be so pandemic out that you're ready to just throw it all to the wind and just be outside. And others of you, myself included, are a little bit more hesitant. The great majority of placements will be remote, but there will be some in person. Your comfortability with that is completely respected. You may be the kind of person who, maybe you live with someone who is at greater risk. Maybe you are just a little bit more anxious about the return and being in a in-person work site. We completely respect that. But if you are working in person and you choose to do that, we will send you. But you should make sure that you are following all the mask policies of that work site, including following CDC guidelines, and you should only do what you're comfortable with. Social distancing is still one of the most effective mitigators of reducing exposure to COVID. So maintaining social distance, and if you feel sick, of course, you should get tested. And if you're working in person and you're feeling sick, do not report to work. Definitely inform your supervisor and get tested. These are all recommendations that are given to us by the city that I want to convey to you. And I want you to also consider very strongly, if you haven't been vaccinated, consider getting vaccinated. It protects you and it protects others. And you can do all of the research you need. It's so easy to get a vaccine. And so we encourage you to do that. You might feel safer, and people around you will be safer as well. But this is something, COVID is going to be part of our reality and part of our frame of mind for a little while longer. And so we want to make sure that you are being safe, that your work site is safe, and that you feel supported in your decision to work either from home or at home or in person.
Like, we've just done this. Where are we now?
Where are we now? So you applied to the program. You were selected into the program. You got an email that said, you've been selected to participate in this program. Please upload 10,000 documents to prove that you are who you are and that you live where you live and that you have permission to work and that you were born and all of the things, all of the papers that we have to provide when we start a new job, right? And if you are sitting in this, watching this video, it means that you already did that. We're following the gray circles. Now we are at the third gray circle, attend the CUNY orientation. That's what you're doing right now. And then the yellow circle, which is right next to it, worksite placement, that is the responsibility of your campus manager, who will be working with you to make sure that you are placed in a location this summer, that you can do all of the things that we talked about. And then back to you. This is your responsibility again. You're going to begin your time. You're going to begin your internship. That gray circle right there, that's July. If we're looking at it in terms of time moving across, right? So it's July, you're beginning your internship, and look what else it says. You're submitting your timesheets. Nobody ever wants to remind you to submit your timesheet. Like, you should commit that to memory, seriously. Between now, the time that you're watching this video, and July 6th, you will be talking with, sharing, emailing with, filling out forms to make sure that your campus manager has a good sense of who you are and where you should be placed for the summer. You can do whatever you want with your life in June, as long as you are reading your email and being in communication with your campus manager. Don't disappear after this training. Because right after this training, you're going to be, your campus manager is going to communicate with you, send you an email, reach out to you and say, hey, what do you want to do this summer? What are you good at? Do you want to work in person or do you want to work from home? And if you are not available to answer those questions, they will go on to the next person. So, and you could be phased out. Honestly, we need that communication from you to know that you're still interested. So June is the time that you remain engaged. You ask your questions, you respond to your emails, you fill out the forms. Your campus manager may host a welcome meeting and have everyone who's in that campus cohort come together and say, hi, look at us, we're doing the Recovery Corps. The last two gray circles is still your responsibility. One of them is that you will have to complete an evaluation of SYEP, of the program that you're in, the Recovery Corps, of which it is an offshoot of the SYEP. That will come in the form of some type of online survey. It's so important that you complete that survey when the time comes, so that you can share your experience with the funders who are conducting that survey. And then you will receive a final performance evaluation from your supervisor where you can get the feedback of how well you did this summer. One thing that's not on here, it would be a yellow circle, would be us providing you with guidance and about how to update your resume. That's a final parting gift at the end of the summer, or perhaps in September. How do you talk about this experience on your resume? You'll get to see another video featuring your Shaddai Arima, who will be going over, tips and tricks, resume stuff. How do you talk about this experience? How do you make it meaningful on paper? And that's another yellow circle that's not on the thing. So you're responsible for everything in gray. And that's what's happening next.
Okay. Now, if they still have questions.
Every campus has a manager who you may know their name right now or not. But we will make sure that everyone knows the name of their campus manager and how to get in touch with them. Your campus manager will be responsible for your matching process, so be on the lookout for your emails from him or her. And there will also be a fiscal manager who will be in charge of processing and approving your your timesheets. So there's one or two people at each campus in place to make sure that you know what you need to know, do what you need to do, answer all your questions, and support you if there are challenges along the way. In case you still have questions after this video, someone is there. Someone will always be there to answer your question.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like they've had to have had most of their questions answered and learned a lot of things that they probably didn't think about asking before about what Recovery Corps is, why they're being asked to do things the way they're being asked to do them, and how they fit in as a part of the CUNY family.
We desperately want you to be successful in this experience. We want you to understand that you are important and that what you're doing this summer is important. You are going to gain more than just a paycheck from this experience, and being connected to this mission of getting New York City back on its feet. It's been a hard, long year, spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with this pressing reality. But you made it through the semester, you made it through another semester, you made it through another semester. And you may have been working all along the way. You may have gotten sick yourself. You may have lost someone. But we're here. And that really is about the resilience of each and every one of us. And that kind of energy, to be able to infuse that into the greater community of New York City, to revitalize, is powerful. And I hope that we've been able to convey that to each and every one of you over this last however many minutes, hours that we've been together at this point. But you're important, and you are definitely part of this history now, this history of being the solution in New York City to the challenges that we have all overcome.
I always enjoy the opportunity to give me to work with these fine people, and it is not to give them unearned compliments. It's just me acknowledging, verbally documenting what I've observed. These opportunities are unique to New York City and the many campuses that CUNY is, the diversity in the type of study, in the type of student. I always feel confident that whatever we do, we're going to be successful because we always have specialists in something that we need, because we have so many different types of people who choose to be a part of these programs. And when you guys are true to yourselves and your uniqueness, that's when we do our best. So there's no reason for you to feel nervous, apprehensive, inadequate, or fearful about this experience you're about to be a part of. Much of it is unknown because a lot of it is unknowable. But the good news is you are part of mapping out what that landscape is. And that's a powerful position to be in. Anytime you want a change in the status quo or the power dynamic, something big has to happen. Otherwise, things are going to stay the way they are. Something big happened. So this is the opportunity for that change. So keep clear-headed, answer your emails and be on time, and spell things correctly, write out Y-O-U. Yes, I actually physically said it. And then all those other things. And you guys are going to do great. You can keep in touch with me on LinkedIn if you want to say what's up. I like to be in contact with y'all because invariably I read an article and one of y'all are in there and is like, do I know this person? Like, yes, I do. So I love staying in contact with you guys. All right. We didn't get to meet physically or virtually this time. We're sending this into the future now.